Thanks for that very flattering video. um, Hi everyone, as you clearly saw, my name is Sabrina Esufally and I work at Hemas Consumer Brands. Firstly, I want to thank the Frederick Naumann Foundation and NextGen Sri Lanka for organizing a session like this where women can come together and share ideas of how they're going to change the country and maybe even the world. I am the fourth generation of the family that started Hemas almost 75 years ago. My great-grandfather started the company because he believed that he could create products that would empower families to live a better quality of life. Over the years, the company, over the 75 years we've been around, the company really has tried to live up to that promise. And that has really defined the spaces that we play in today, largely consumer, education, and healthcare. I run the consumer business, which my father started in the 1980s. Milinda was a little shy to talk about our brand, so maybe I'll do the honors. You may know us by some of our flagship brands like Baby Cherami, Klogard, Velvet, and Atlas. So we actually compete head-to-head with multinational competitors in the market, and we're a proud homegrown local brand. We have about 25% share in the home and personal care market. One of the greatest joys of my job is that I get to travel around the country speaking to consumers, largely women actually, because most of our products are bought by women. I get to listen to them about what they would like from their life, what are the problems they have, and I also get a glimpse into the systemic issues that I think we need to solve for as a country, not just for women, but as a country as a whole. And really these are the needs, the wants, the desires, and the fears that a lot of these women have expressed to me. Since I've been given an efficient 8 minutes, I thought I would kind of use 3 numbers as a basis to anchor how I think change should be conceived and what I would do if I was sitting in government. So the 3 stats are 6%, 37%, and 527. 6% is the percentage of expenditure that we spend on education as a percent of our GDP. Bangladesh, just for comparison, is at about 8%, Uganda 12%, Ethiopia 17%. When I visit many schools, particularly in rural areas, what I find consistently is that these schools don't have math and science teachers. I think that this is particularly scary given that the world is really changing on the back of technology and science. And if we don't have the right skill set in our next generation, we will be not just far behind today, but we will be very far behind the rest of the world 10 years from now. So I think this is something that we really have to address. Over the last few months, our taxes have taken a hike, but I welcome that reform because I think it's necessary to increase government revenue. But at the same time, I think we should also talk about expenditure. My concern is not so much with the quantum of expenditure, but where we choose to deploy it. We need to start investing much more in human capital through better qualified teachers, better education facilities, and global education partnerships. I think to do this, we have to talk and have hard sort of conversations about where we're going to cut government expenditure. For instance, we spend about 500 billion on defense. The question is it necessary in a country that is not currently at war? We are fighting a different battle today, and I think that it's appropriate that we invest behind that. We are fighting a battle for economic development, a battle for good quality talent. The question that I have is, wouldn't we be better off by investing a bulk of our government expenditure on our future generation? So 6%, let's get that number up. 37% is Sri Lanka's female labor force participation. This is again lower than countries in the region like Vietnam and Bangladesh. We have a business in Bangladesh, and I see, just from the small presence we have out there, how different female labor force participation is there, and how that's really fueling economic development. And I think in a period where we see sluggish economic growth, helping to integrate 50% of our population into the workforce is not just something nice to have for the sake of gender equality, but I think it is an economic necessity. Governments can encourage this, I think, by helping women access the financing, the networks, they need to become entrepreneurs. I speak to women, recently because of the economic crisis, it is no longer possible to have a single income household. Women have resorted to making handbags, making sweetmeats, running little salons out of their houses. There are some women that have even joined us to do community selling to supplement our sales force. Initially, these women did it out of necessity, but talking to them 6 months down the line, I see that they are finding empowerment in it, independence in it, and freedom in it. And I think as a result, their families are also much better off, because typically these women reinvest back into their children or back into the family's savings pool. So essentially, this is helping families as a whole become less vulnerable. If I was in government, I would equip women with these skills and capacity to start scaling their businesses, start really giving wind behind their entrepreneurial wings. It has been proven time and time again, and Sri Lanka is not an outlier on this, that if you invest in getting women to participate in the workforce, families are much better off, and ultimately the country will be much better off. 527, that is the number of state-owned enterprises we have today. If I was in government, I would focus on doing a job that I was really good at. That is largely on the back of passing legislation that enables us to run our country much better. That is, driving policy reform and improving state services. That I think the government does a good job at, and I would focus on that. I think over the years, what has happened is that we have blurred the line between where the government stops and where the private sector begins. For instance, the government today is in competitive industries like hotels, manufacturing, retail distribution, coir making, soap making. So there's a ton of government positions right now in private sector industry. And I think if we look at the losses that these entities have accumulated, not in places where there's natural monopoly, but where the government has played in competitive industries, I think the facts speak for itself. The state just doesn't do a good job at running businesses. This is, again, not unique to Sri Lanka. This is felt across the world. So inevitably, what ends up happening is that the taxpayer bears the brunt of this inefficiency, and we end up paying sort of money for subsidies and losses. So if I was in government, I would work my way out of competitive industries and let the private sector take over. Countries that have done this have found that the private sector, by doing this, can actually improve consumer welfare by giving these products and services at a much better quality, a much better price, and produced much more efficiently. I think my 8 minutes are almost up. So just to summarize, if I was in government, I would focus on really improving the stats behind these three numbers. One is 6% of expenditure as a percentage of GDP on education. I would drive that number up. I would drive the 37% of female labor force participation up. And I would work on reducing the 527, which is the state-owned enterprises, that number down. So thank you very much.